conversation than a lecture. So if you, in the next couple minutes, can kind of figure that out, that would be awesome. Obviously, if you cannot do it, that's fine, but I would love to see some faces over the next hour and a half or so.
While we're waiting, I just want to say I'm really looking forward to this. I saw you and Asher do the Wednesday at 1, probably 2 years ago now, right? And it was so helpful.
Oh, awesome. Good. Yeah, that was a long time ago now. That feels like a whole other life ago, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was. Now we're all at home. We were live.
We were live once upon a time. Awesome. Great. We're getting close to our number. Maybe one more minute and then I'll get started. So for those of you that just showed up, hey, super excited for this convo. If you can turn your cameras on, that would be awesome. I would love for this to be more of a convo than just a lecture to you all. I have a lot of questions. I want to make sure I'm answering your questions in real time. So yeah, and grab a notebook if you want to take notes because I'll be throwing a lot at you. Start at 1:04. Awesome. Okay. So it's 1:04, so I'm going to get started. I'm sure some other people will kind of jump in as we go. But hey, everybody. Happy Wednesday. So good to see all your faces. My name is Nemuna Ceesay, she, her, hers. I am an adjunct professor, acting teacher at Hunter. Not actually teaching an acting class this semester. I'm the acting mentor for CoLab this semester, so that's what I'm doing. But I know some of your faces and I don't know other faces. I would actually love to just go around really quickly and so that I know who I'm speaking to. Just say your name, your pronouns, and I don't know if you're a student at Hunter, if you're just an actor in the world, if you're a professor at Hunter, just so we get to know kind of who's in the room here. That'll help me kind of figure out how to tailor this conversation as well. So I'm actually going to start, Sana, with you. You're the first one I see.
Hi, my name's Sana, she, her, hers. I am a graphic designer and web designer, but I'm always curious to learn more, so I'm happy to be here.
Awesome, thank you. Madison?
Hi, everyone. My name is Madison, she, her, hers. I work here in the theater department. I'm predominantly a playwright, but in a past life, I've been an actor.
Love it. Barbara?
Yeah, in a past life, I was an actor too. I teach acting and directing here at Hunter.
Love it. Thank you. William?
Yeah, I'm currently taking classes. I'm taking Barbara's class. I started taking acting class, and Barbara was the first director I ever had, and first 2 plays I was in. Recently retired and am pursuing acting full time. So that's what I'm going to do.
Awesome. Thank you. Jenny?
Hi, I'm Jenny. Pronouns are she, her, hers. Sorry, was there something else I'm supposed to say?
Yeah, what are you up to these days?
Oh, just living life, trying to, living life.
Awesome. Thank you. Amanda?
Hi, my name is Amanda. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a student at Hunter, just trying to figure out what to do, weighing out my options, undecided.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you. Monica?
Hi, my name's Monica. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a theater major at Hunter, and I'm kind of here just to figure out like the breakdown of like an artist's life in general.
Great. I will do my best. Doris?
Hi everyone, my name is Doris and my pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am a pre-med at Hunter, but I am looking to go more into my hobbies rather than sticking with the sciences. So I'm excited to be here.
Love that. Thanks, Doris. Claudia?
Hi, my name is Claudia. She, her, hers. I'm an actor, but let's be honest, I do kind of everything and anything. That's what I'm doing.
I love that. I actually want to talk a little bit about being a multi-hyphenate and how important that is. So if I don't bring that up, remind me, because that's great. Where are we at? Okay, if I pronounce your name incorrectly, please correct me. Padrig?
You got it right. This is great. So yeah, I'm Padrig. I'm a theater student at Hunter. He, him, you know, and like Claudia, I'm kind of a multi-hyphenate.
Awesome. Thank you. Dexter, hey.
Hi. Okay. Hello. Okay, so I'm Dexter. Hi everyone. What do I do? Actor first, and entrepreneur, producer, writer, just everything, man. Like just everything. I'm just chilling. Not at Hunter right now. What I'm working on, too many things actually. Actually Barbara knows this because Barbara's a part of it, but I'm a part of a theater company now, so working on new work there. Screen work is coming up. There's a Disney project, NDA. There's a FX. There's this. There's that. I'm just working now. So I'm doing all the things, and we'll talk about my life later. If
I love it. I love that. Yes. Thank you, Dexter. Good to see you. Felicia.
Nice try. It's an unusual spelling. And
oh, sorry. There's no, sorry. Go ahead. What is it?
So it's not Felica or Felica. It's actually Felisa.
Felisa. Got it. Thank you.
So I'm a senior auditor at Hunter, and after retiring from a full-time career in nonprofit fundraising, I am now delving into the acting world, and very excited to hear from you.
Awesome. Yay. Thank you, Felisa. Nice to meet you.
Same.
Travis.
Hey guys, I'm Travis Schwager. I'm a full-time actor. I'm here to find out more about your process of getting work. Just feature films and TV, and I also worked with Monica and Claudia last year in a play, Laughter of Judas Iscariot. So happy to see you too. Hope you're doing well. And yeah, I'm just open and looking just to keep working, you know.
Love it. Also, Judas Iscariot is like my favorite play of all time. So
oh yeah,
love that y'all were in that.
It's a banging play.
Yeah. Georgina.
Hi, I'm Georgina, pronounced she, her. I'm a student at Hunter doing theater and computer science. I normally do lighting, and I'm also the lighting designer for Collab. So you guys should watch that. And I am just here to be educated.
Awesome. Thank you. Sahar.
My name's Sahar. Pronouns are she, her. Pre-COVID, I worked as a background actor and worked at New York City film festivals. Now I'm just a theater undergraduate student at Hunter College.
Amazing. Thanks, Sahar. Sarah N.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I am a media studies major theater minor. I'm primarily a performer, but I do dabble in a little bit of everything. And I'm just here to learn and absorb information.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you. Delara.
Hey guys. My name is Delara and I'm a student at Hunter, and I'm just curious to find out more about acting. I don't really have that much experience in it, as is.
You're in the right place. Awesome. Thank you. Bella.
Hi, my name is Bella. I am a Hunter alum. I just graduated this January. And yeah, same as a lot of people, I just want to learn more about, you know, what I can do post grad life, because with the pandemic and working a non-creative job, I'm just trying to look for some more things to learn and experiment with. So yeah.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. Annabella?
Hi, my name is Annabella. My pronouns are she, they. I'm a psych and public policy major at Hunter, but I really love acting, so I'm just here to learn about what it's like to be a working actor. So
Awesome. Yay. Thank you. Alessandro? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, I'm just apologizing because I'm also eating, so sorry
No
about
worries.
it. So restricted. I am an Italian actor. I'm studying now. I almost finished at Stella Adler here in New York. And I'm also a visual artist, and I applied for MFA at Hunter. And then looking at the Instagram, so I find out that there is acting in Hunter too. So I said, let's see what's about. Also because of July, I will wrap this Stella Adler experience. And so I will get an OPT, I think they call it like that. And I will be ready to work.
Awesome. Yes, that's awesome. Cool. Another multi-hyphenate. Love it. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Asher, hey.
Hi, how are you?
Good, miss you.
Miss you. I'm just here to support my good friend Nemuna. Whatever she says is very smart, so listen to her. I'm on adjunct faculty here. I teach acting and acting on camera.
Yes, awesome. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
Brittany?
Hi. I'm gonna show my face in a few minutes. I'm just like
you're fine.
Testing. So my pronouns are she, her. I'm an undergrad at Hunter. And I'm an actor because I have like no other talents. So that's what I'm here to learn about.
I'm sure you have many talents, but hey, being an actor is a great one. I may be biased, but awesome. Welcome. Jessie. Jessie.
Sorry.
That's
Hi.
okay.
I'm self-conscious about eating a salad on Zoom, so maybe I'll turn my camera off later. But my pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a senior. I don't act, even though I was in Barbara Bosch's acting class last semester, an icon truly. But yeah, I do a lot of stuff.
She's really good.
I don't know about all of that, Barbara. But yeah, I'm a sucker for a Wednesday at 1,
Love it. Thank you for being here, Jessie. Eva?
There's a chat for you.
Nemuna, you're muted.
I'm muted. Sorry. Thank you. Yeah, y'all can read the chat. Great. I already read it, but it's cool. Rodella, hey.
Hi, I'm actually a pre-med student at Hunter, but I was just really interested and I took your class too. So I was really interested, so I joined.
Yes, and you're a great actor as well. So thanks for being here. And Brad.
Sorry, I can't find my buttons. I found my buttons. Sorry. Hey, I'm Brad Krumholtz. I'm the head of production for the theater department at Hunter. I'm just stopping in, support Nemuna, see what's going on, see all you, hear what you're talking about. That's all.
Awesome. Yay. Awesome. Thank you, everybody. So great to hear your voices, see most of your faces, and just like get a sense of like who we are in the room, right? Because I think obviously I'm going to be talking about acting, but it's good to know kind of what else we're interested in and kind of, as I said, tailor the conversation to our needs. So thank you. I'm going to start just by giving you a little bit of context as to like my own journey. So you kind of know like where, because yes, I'm going to talk about the logistics of being a working actor, but like we are all different. We all have our own journeys, right? And so you can take what works and leave what doesn't work. And I just think it'll be good to have a little bit of context for me and where I'm coming from with my journey and my knowledge. So like I said, I am now an adjunct acting professor at Hunter. I also teach at Long Island University and Circle in the Square Theater School. So I'm kind of in that like teaching world as well a lot right now, which is a big part of my journey. I started acting in 6th grade in a production of Annie, which I'm sure that's probably how many of y'all started as well. It's either Annie or Oliver. And so, yeah, I started in 6th grade and have basically been acting ever since. Like as soon as I caught the acting bug, I was like, this is it. Like, this is what I want to do. And so I did all through high school. And then I went to UC Irvine in California to get my BA in drama from there. And what I love about that is at Hunter, I know y'all also get your BA, right? There's a BA and then there are BFAs, and BFA programs are great. That's awesome. But I am so glad that I got my BA, because I think what it does is it makes you like a well-rounded individual, right? And as an actor, I think it's so important, even if you get your BFA, to be a well-rounded individual, right? And to get training in all kinds of things, have all kinds of life experiences, because the majority of time that you're on stage as an actor or as a lighting designer or writing plays as a playwright, you're not writing from or you're not performing from the perspective of like, I am an actor on stage right now. You're playing a doctor, you're playing a teacher, you're playing a poet, right? You're playing something different. You're coming through the perspective of a different type of person than an actor. And so it's good to have the more life experiences that you have, the more training that you have in different aspects of life, the more well-rounded you will be as an actor. So I got my BA in drama from UC Irvine, and then I went straight to American Conservatory Theater in San Francisco to get my MFA in acting, which is where I met Asher. Asher was in my class at ACT. And so I'll talk a little bit about that as well in this discussion about different training options, what making that decision to go to grad school is like. That's what I did. It's not the only option, but I'm really glad I did. And so I'm from California originally. So when I graduated from ACT, I decided that I wanted to move to New York, because I was like, if I'm gonna do it, I gotta do it now, right? I want that different life experience. We'll talk a little bit about that too, what it means to kind of move to a different place. And so I moved to New York right out of grad school and started hustling. Yeah, started like really like had like 5 jobs starting out, none of which were acting jobs. I was a nanny. I worked at Grey Dog Cafe. I did all kinds of different things. And then I started teaching or acting in the regional theater circuit. So I started kind of going, I was at 2 years at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival in Oregon. I've worked in North Carolina. I've worked back in California. I've worked in all kinds of different places, all kinds of different theaters regionally. And now I am kind of, even before the pandemic, I've decided to kind of try to stay in New York, do more of the New York theater scene, and also start to get into kind of TV film stuff. So that's been kind of my journey. That's kind of where I am on my journey, plus adding in a lot of teaching and coaching and things like that. So that's kind of my bigger journey. That's where all of my perspective in this conversation is going to come from. And so I just want y'all to know that up front. There are things that I don't know and that I haven't experienced, but I want to leave this whole conversation. Like I said, I want it to be a conversation. So if any questions come up, I will do my best to answer them. And if I don't know the answer to those questions, I will try to help you find the answer, or I'll say I don't know. Yeah. So great. Love it. Awesome. So before we begin, I would first love to know, is anybody, just do a raise of hand, either an actual raise of hand or like your raise of hand function, if anybody is considering moving outside of New York to do acting, because I want to decide if I even want to talk about like different options of like where to go if there's enough people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-ish. Okay, great. So I'll just do a quick little, I want to try to do this conversation based on kind of the order of operations, right? Like as you think of your career moving forward, what's your first step, your second step, your third step, and things like that. So I'll talk a tiny bit about moving options. It seems like probably most of you will stay in the New York area, so I'll tailor most of the conversation to that. But I do want to talk about some other options. So we've got Los Angeles, we've got New York, we've got Chicago, we've got Atlanta. I kind of think of those as like the top kind of like 4 places at this point in time to move. Obviously, we are in coronavirus pandemic time still, which kind of means that you can be living anywhere at this point. And I actually feel like the industry is going to open up and be a lot more considerate towards like actors wanting to live in other places now that self-taping and things like that are much bigger. But those are kind of like the top 4 places that I kind of think are like the main places right now. So New York scene is great right now, and kind of has been for a long time in terms of there's theater and there's also TV film, right? Like you kind of have everything in New York. I'm probably biased because I moved here for a reason, but I do feel like the industry, there's a lot more opportunities to do kind of anything you want in New York. You got LA, which is primarily TV film. Yeah, there's some theater there. But it's a lot harder to get into the scene because there's just not as much theater, and casting directors and people don't super care as much about theater as they do in New York. So if you're really thinking about doing the TV film thing and that's like all you want to do, you could definitely consider moving to Los Angeles. There's also a really good kind of improv, kind of that comedy scene. Many of the comedic TV series are shot out of Los Angeles. So if you're really like comedy is my thing, could be great to go to Los Angeles. Yeah. Then you got Chicago. Chicago is great for theater, like great for theater. There's a lot more TV popping up in Chicago, but theater is kind of, especially as a non-union actor, Chicago is a great place to go. There's tons of what they call storefront theaters in Chicago, lots of really cool experimental devised stuff. If you're somebody that like wants to be doing like, you know, cool, like devised work that you create with an ensemble, Chicago is a really great place to go. Yeah. It's a hard place to go if you are union, if you're a young actor who is in the union, Actors Equity Association. It's hard because there's just not as many theaters, but if you're a non-union actor starting out, to go to Chicago is a great place to go. Yeah. And then the last place I want to talk about is Atlanta. Atlanta is an awesome place to go. It's booming now with TV and film. And there are also theaters in Atlanta. Yeah. Not as big of a theater scene, I would say, as like New York, for example, but there is also theater in Atlanta. And it's a really great place to be a local actor right now because there's tons of opportunities for TV shows and not as many people that you're competing against. Yeah. So if you're like, I don't want to move to LA, don't want to stay in New York, Chicago doesn't seem like the right fit, Atlanta could be a really cool place to go just because it's kind of like up and coming. And I think eventually it's also going to be kind of overrun with millions of actors. So it's kind of a good place to go right now if you want to start trying TV and film in a less competitive market. Does that make sense? Great. So are there any questions about that? Because I don't want to spend too much time on these places, but I did want to kind of give you the overview. Yeah, Patrick.
I was just interested in what you were saying about doing the regional theater circuit, and especially like Oregon, which seems like, you know, it involves moving around and stuff. So I'm just kind of interested in what you have to say about that part of it too.
Cool. Yeah. I will get into that a little bit later. Yeah. Yep.
So about the Chicago versus ATL, because I've had a consideration, especially for Chicago. I think Gregory had a Wednesday at one with some guy from Chicago. I really don't remember right now. But in that, Larson. I was like, oh, sorry?
Mark Larson? Was it that one?
Yeah, probably. That's probably, yeah.
That was a good one.
Oh, you guys. Oh, you always support me. Love you all. So yeah, I was curious more about the Chicago scene, but more so from the perspective of someone who's who's either been there. Like, has that been you, Nemuna? Like, if it has, talk to me. If it hasn't, that's okay. And also the Atlanta scene. So those were like two places that I'm like considering. I'm also considering like doing a circuit, New York, Chicago, Atlanta, New York, Chicago, Atlanta. So I'm just trying to figure out like if you have experience of like if you have experience or know of experiences of actually being in like the now there. Yeah.
Yeah. I personally do not have experience in either Chicago or Atlanta as an actor. I can get you in touch with, like, I can reach into my contacts and see if there's anybody that I could get you, like, give you their email, and you can email them and ask them specific questions. I know another thing to keep in your brains if you're thinking of moving somewhere other than New York is like, what is the lifestyle like, right? Like, not just like the actual like acting work there, but what is the lifestyle like? Like Chicago, everybody I know who's from Chicago or lives in Chicago is obsessed with Chicago, but it's also like a really hard place to live in terms of like the weather, and like literally just the logistics of it are hard. And so that's another thing to keep if you're like trying to decide like, where do I want to move? Both of the acting kind of industries are cool for me. Then start to think of other factors, right? Like, what is it going to be like to live there? Will I have to have a car? How much does it cost to live there? Things like that, right? But let me know, Dexter, and anybody else, if you're like, I really want to talk to somebody who's from Chicago, I can try to get you in touch with them because I only know so much. Yeah. Patrick?
Also, I don't know, like I keep seeing that shows are being filmed in like Montreal or something now. Like I'm seeing like a lot more being done in Canada. And like, I don't know, America is a little rough sometimes to live in.
Yes.
So I don't know. I'm just wondering if you like know anyone or have any knowledge about like the kind of Montreal scene,
No, this
like
is
the
good.
Canada scene.
Yeah, this is really good. So there are plenty of places where TV shows and films are being filmed, right? Like Canada's a big one. New Orleans is another one. It has to do with tax write-offs mostly, which I'm not going to get into all of that jazz. But what you really need to know is that even if a show is shooting in Canada, usually it's being cast out of Los Angeles or New York. So like, even if it's shooting somewhere else, you probably need to be in Los Angeles or New York in order to get those jobs. What I meant when I was talking about Atlanta in terms of being a local hire is all of the main roles, right? So if you think of like the series regular roles, sometimes the guest star or recurring roles, which is kind of like the tiers underneath series regulars, those are cast out of New York and LA most often. But then there are littler roles, right, that we call co-stars most of the time, which is like a couple of lines or one line here and there. They're not going to go to New York or Los Angeles to get those like actors to do 3 lines, right? They're going to hire locally. So if you live in Atlanta, for example, there are tons of TV shows that are happening there and films. Like, they're going to need actors who are local so that they don't have to house them or, you know, pay for their travel. And that's where that's why Atlanta, for example, is a good place to start out. Probably also New Orleans, although I'm not sure about the tax write-offs there right now. And Chicago even as well, because you can kind of get those smaller roles as a local hire. But once you start getting up to a certain point and you're starting to get bigger and bigger roles, you probably should be in, or at least have representation in New York or Los Angeles, because that's where they're going to be getting those roles. Does that make sense? Great. Okay. Awesome. Let me just make sure I'm not missing any hands here. Cool. Okay. I'm going to move forward. Like I mentioned, if you want to, I'm actually going to put my email in the chat right now before I forget, so that y'all can email me if you have like questions such as, I would love to get in touch with a Chicago actor or an Atlanta actor to ask specific questions. Yeah. So there you go. It's in the chat for y'all. Write it down. Okay, I'm going to move past the city question and I'm going to go to marketing materials. Yeah. So this to me is kind of the first thing that you need to think about. Like, if you're like a senior and you're like, okay, I'm about to go into the world, like, what are the first steps that I need? You're going to need great marketing materials. So what do I mean by that? You're going to need headshots. You're going to need a resume that is clear and concise. I'll show you examples. And you're also going to need a website or at least a presence on the internet. Yeah. So I'm going to start with the headshot conversation. Go ahead as I'm talking. If you have any questions, put them in the chat for me so that I can try to make sure I hit those questions. So I'm going to show you some examples of, I'm going to share my screen and show you some examples of headshot photographers that exist. Now, before I do that, getting headshots from a headshot photographer is really expensive, right? Like it just is. Like I know one of the questions for this this Wednesday at 1 was like, how do you get affordable and good headshots? And the answer mostly is like, there are some professional photographers that are cheaper than others, but probably it's going to cost you like $500 like to get the headshots, to get them edited, like all that's the cheapest it's going to be. So I'm going to start by showing you my current headshot. So let me, how do I, okay, here, I'm going to share my screen. Can y'all see this? Can I get a thumbs up? Yes. Great. So this is my current headshot, and I'm showing you this because my ex-boyfriend took this headshot. So like for free. So like this, the way to get affordable good headshots is to find a friend that you have or somebody that your friend knows who has a good camera and can take you out in the natural light and get you a headshot that works. Yeah. Do I think this headshot is perfect? No, it's not perfect, but it looks like me. Well, now my hair is different, but it looks like me. You can see my face. You can see my eyes. The lighting is good, right? Like, and this cost me zero money. So like, if you're like really like, I do not have money to spend on headshots right now, that's okay. Like, do not put yourself in debt to get a headshot. Just make sure that it looks like you, the lighting is good, it's not super distracting. And I'm going to show you some examples of bad headshots and things to not do in your headshot. But this is the way to get an affordable headshot, is to just find somebody you know to take a really good picture of you. Yeah, especially when you're starting out, it's not going to be a huge, crazy deal to have like the most expensive headshot. Yeah. So are there any questions? You're gonna have to just yell out if there's any questions right now because I can't see all of you. Okay, good, great. So this is my cheap, affordable headshot that I use more than any other headshot. This was my headshot for the Wednesday at 1. Like this is what I use for everything. Yeah. Here is my expensive headshot. This is my expensive headshot. This was by a photographer named David Knowles, who I'll show you his website. He's like the biggest deal photographer right now in New York. His headshots are beautiful. They're beautiful, like they're great. And I love the headshots that I took from David Knowles, but I use my other headshot more. And these probably ended up costing me, and this was years ago now, so I'm sure he's more expensive now. I think altogether I spent like $1,100 basically for this headshot. So it's expensive. And if you have the money to burn, or like your parents are like, we'll give you the money you need for a headshot, doesn't matter how much it is, then go for it. Get like an expensive headshot photographer and go for it. That's totally fine. But if you don't, you do not have to spend $1,000 on a headshot. Does that make sense? Great. Okay. I'm going to show you basically like the old wave headshots is what I'm calling them versus the new wave headshots. So like what headshots used to be versus kind of what they are becoming now, because the style is changing a little bit. And so I think that y'all should know that. So here we go. So great. Y'all can see this. Let me do this. Great. So this headshot photographer is named Jordan Matter. Jordan Matter is a headshot photographer that's been like in New York forever and ever and ever. Like he's been working in New York forever. And so if you ask anybody like outside of New York, like what photographer do I go to? They'll probably say Jordan Matter just because he's been around forever. But I'm feeling like, and this could be a personal preference, but I think it's also true, these are starting to look outdated. And here's why. So this, for example, you see this like this woman, she's like outside and she's by like a stone wall or something here. Like there's a little texture here. The background is kind of blurred. Like she looks like this headshot is specifically like for like, you know, if she goes out for a show like Law and Order or something, she's like, I could be a policeman, right? Like, or an FBI agent. Like it's kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like targeted, right? Like it's for a very kind of targeted look, which is fine. I mean, it's a good headshot. You see her eyes, you see her face, that's fine. But this kind of like background with this kind of specific look is kind of going out of style. Same with this. I think this is what's his name. Yeah, Brian Darcy James, who's like a big deal. So this background that's kind of, you see like the frames here, like it just looks, I don't know, like it just looks dated. Is that just me or do y'all kind of agree? Yeah, great. Okay. Same here, right? Like this guy also like kind of famous, was on Scandal, is on like every single show, but he like the whole very formal kind of like, okay, I'm wearing like a suit in this picture and I have like, you know, lights behind me is kind of, it's just like, it just feels like it's going out of style. So let me show you the opposite of kind of what's happening now and how it is different from this kind of a style. So here's David Knowles again, who took my fancy headshot. Yeah. Just kind of shout out to me, like, what is different? What feels different about these pictures than the ones that you saw from Jordan Matter? Anybody?
The embodiment of just your face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the very like specific kind of spotlight on your face and your eyes, right? What else?
It's like crazy edited.
Yeah, it's crazy
eyes are
edited.
kinda like cat eyes.
Cat eyes. It looks really like cinematic, right?
It's very moody, like in
Very
that tone
moody.
style. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. What else? What else do you see? Like, what's the difference in like the background or the lighting?
There is a
Solid
brilliant
background, harsh
Yeah,
lighting.
solid.
It's like super. It's not
Solid.
distracting.
Solid background, not distracting. I think this is key, right? It's like the idea of it looking cinematic, I think kind of shows you where we're going in terms of the industry, right? That like this idea, which is truer now more than ever because of the self-tapes and everything we're doing. Even when I audition for theater these days, it's on self-tape, right? So everything is becoming more cinematic. The very solid background, which does what Dexter was saying of not being distracting. Basically, all we want to see is like your face and your eyes, right? Like that is the key. And if you look at like, I don't know where I put it. Anyway, if you remember, because it's gone, my fancy headshots, like that's all you really see is my face and my eyes, right? And that's kind of where we're headed in terms of new wave of headshots. So here's another person who's kind of doing new wave, kind of similar, right? This one's like the lighting is a little bit like softer, which I'm not super into, but you know, if that's your style, that's great. But same thing, the background is like a lot more solid. We're really focusing on your face and your eyes. Everything looks much more cinematic. So that's kind of where we're going. My personal opinion is that I like headshots that are more focused on your face than like your whole torso and your face, right? Because you can also kind of do like more of yourself in the headshot. Here's an example of that. This is Ambi J, who's also an incredible photographer. And if you can see, she kind of puts more of your body into the shots, like even for the more close-up ones, you kind of get more of the body, which is fine if that's what you're into. I feel like it distracts a little bit from your face. Like it feels like there's so much more area of the headshot that's not just your face. But again, this is all about like, how do you want to market yourself? How do you want to brand yourself? Like, what is your thing, right? And what style seems to fit your style? Because the whole point of what's happening now is casting directors, agents, they want to know your vibe, right? Like that's like the trendy word of the decade or whatever, your vibe, right? Like what is your vibe? So finding a headshot photographer that really seems to capture like, ooh, yeah, this is my style, right? Like Ambi J's style feels very different to me than Michael Levy's style, right? Like you can tell, like they have different feels. So just really being true with yourself and being like, okay, which one seems to encapsulate who I am as an artist more? Does that make sense? Great, love it. Any questions on that?
I do have a question.
Yep.
So I mean, how important is branding? Because you're talking about like my style, but my style may not necessarily be what people see in me when I walk into a room. And like casting agents, they look at me and they see like the first like 4 noticeable things or 3 noticeable things.
Mhm.
And so like how important is headshots in terms of branding? Because like you want the casting director to be able to see this headshot and be like, okay, I know what to do with this person.
Yeah,
So,
this
yeah.
yes, brilliant. Such a good question. And honestly, I could do like a whole semester on just this question. But what I will say is I think that it's important to, I'm going to just stop screen share for a second so I can see y'all. I think it's important to kind of do two things. You're kind of doing 2 things. A, you have to understand what the rules are before you can break them, right? So like you need to understand like what is my type when I walk into a room, like what are the casting directors or agents or whoever I'm there to see going to immediately think when they see me, right? That's valid. You need to know what that is. But then you also need to know like, what do I as an artist want to showcase, right? Like maybe when I walk into the room, the casting director is going to look at me and be like, yeah, I'm going to cast this person as a gang member, but maybe that's not what you want to do. And that's not the type of work that you want to do. So you also need to know like, this is the type of work I want to do. So this is what I'm going to showcase. So with your branding materials, I think what's most important is who do I want to be as an artist? Yeah. Like, so for example, let me just show you these again real quick. The difference between these headshots, right? And the ones from Jordan Matter, which are much more tailored to a specific type, I think, is that what's happening now with branding and headshots is people really just want to know who you are, right? So these headshots they're not targeted towards any specific type, right? It's like, this is how I feel most confident. This is what I look like. This is the vibe that I want to give off. Like this person here, like she's not playing towards a type. She's not wearing like a blazer to be her Law and Order self, right? She's like, this is the blouse that I love. This is how I like my hair. This is who I am, right? And so that's what you want to be trying to show. And I know it's harder said than done because often we don't quite know who we are yet, you know, but as much as you can be true to like, this is who I want people to see me as, that's the direction that I think you should go. And of course, that doesn't mean that you completely disregard how people are going to see you when you walk into the room, but it's okay to surprise people, right? Like, it's okay to be like, yeah, you think I'm this, but like, let me show you this, right? And that's actually what's going to be more interesting to people. That's how they're going to remember you. Does that make sense? I don't remember who was talking before, but did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question. So,
yeah.
It was piggybacking off of what Brianna brought up. Hey, so like, you know, the headshot is like the stationary thing, not trying to get hit by a car. The headshot is like the stationary thing, which, you know, captures your image, like David Noah does amazing all the time. But like, my question is about like in my experience so far, it's been like, they've been like, oh, okay, here's your headshot, cool. Then they would ask, okay, but what do you look like in terms of like maybe like a reel? So like if we can get to that, like what's that about? Like the entry level, like how to get it, because those are equally as that's an investment too. So like what's that about? Like they don't want to see the static you, they want to see like a moving you, and like what is your best practices advice for that?
Yes, we definitely need to talk about reels. I'll mention that when I talk about websites, which I'll do in a second. Beautiful. Yeah, Gregory, I see your note. Do you want to add something here? Because I don't know the director's perspective.
Hi, everybody. Nemuna, this is so great. Thank you for doing this.
Hi.
As a person who has sat behind a table and looked at literally 10,000 resume photos. My advice is make your picture look like yourself. Because at the end of the day, you have this stack of resumes and you say, oh, that woman who came in at 10:15, she was great this morning. I can't remember her name. And you start looking through the pictures and then you can't find the woman who came in at 10:15 because your hair is different or it's 6 inches longer or something. So that's all I want to say from a director's perspective. Just whatever you look like that day, try to have a photograph that looks like it. And that's all I wanted to say. And God bless you all.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you, Gregory. Very important. Yeah, good. I'm going to move past headshots because we have a lot to get through. But again, you have my email. So if you have other questions, let me know. Amazing. I want to talk about resumes. Really, there's not a ton to talk about with resumes. The most important thing is that it's easy to read. So here is an example of my resume here. So I have all of my information at the top. So this is another really important thing. Make sure that they can find you. Yeah, like if they like what they see, that they know exactly how to contact you. So my name is here, very clear. My website is here. And then my email is here and my phone number is here, right? They know that I'm in the unions. They know how tall I am, brown hair, brown eyes, again, kind of like a reminder of like, wait, who is this person, right? Usually when you go into an audition, you have like your headshot stapled to the back of your resume so they can kind of see your face and your resume, but like anything you can do to just help them kind of remember who you are. I start with my film and television credits, but obviously if you don't have any film and television credits, that's totally okay. Here's how I set up my theater credits. And again, I think that there's not necessarily a right or wrong way. There's a wrong way probably, but there's not one right way to do this. I've seen actors do it in different ways. Again, the most important thing is that it's clear. So I first put what the show was, and then I put what role I had in the show, and then I add both my director and the theater that it was at here. Some people do this section differently, but I find that it's important. It's helpful for me to show like, these are the directors I worked with, because often a casting director or a director in the room will be like, oh, you've worked with Jennifer Chambers. I know her. She's awesome. Like, how was that experience? Or, oh, you've worked at Oregon Shakespeare Festival. Oh my God, I love it there. I saw this show then. Were you there then? Right? Like giving them an opportunity to kind of like talk to you about what's on your resume, and know who they can call if they have questions about you as an artist. Yeah. So again, I mean, don't be a dick in the room, because they will call their friends who you've worked with and be like, hey, I like this actor. Like, how were they to work with? And if you were not great to work with, they will be told that information and they will not hire you. So just something to remember. I have my extra stuff here, my voiceover work. If you have like other things, like, I don't know, like modeling or, you know, something else that you have, even if you want to add, like, if you don't have enough credits as a playwright to have a whole separate playwright resume, but you do have some credits, you can like add that here in this section. Very important to add your training, like where you went to school and all of that stuff. And then also if you have special skills that you want to, I've recently taken off my special skills because it didn't matter. But if you speak a different language fluently, very important to put on a resume. If you have like combat experience, stage combat experience, put that on your resume. If you're certified in intimacy direction, put that on your resume. If you're really good at a Jamaican dialect, put that on your resume. And I mean, really good. Like, don't put anything in special skills that you don't actually really know how to do well. Because they might ask you to pull it out in the audition. Yeah. So if you're like, I'm fluent in Spanish, and then they're like, ooh, have a conversation with me in Spanish. And you're like, oh, actually, I'm not. That's not a good look. So most important thing is just making sure that it's clear and that all your contact information is here. Any questions on resumes? What font and page size do you use? Yeah. Thanks, Patrick. Again, I don't think it matters. I think it needs to be, don't use like some swirly font that's hard to read, right? Like it doesn't need to look pretty. Like it just needs to be clear. Yeah. So it doesn't matter what font. I think I stretch out the margins so that there's more, because again, it's annoying if your resume is on more than one page. Make everything as convenient as it can be for casting directors. As soon as something is inconvenient, they're going to throw it away, you know? So like, make sure it's on one page. I continue to delete stuff from my resume. I think that's why my special skills are gone, really, because I was like, it doesn't fit on this page anymore. So it's got to go. Like, so make sure it fits on one page and that it's easy to read. Page size, everything is going to have to be 8 by 10 because that's what headshots are. So even though a piece of paper is 8 by 11, if your resume gets too large on the page, you won't be able to cut it into an 8 by 10 in a way that doesn't cut things off. So another good thing to just think about. Yeah. Any other questions on that?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So in the training section under your schools, do you need to add the names of your professors for the?
Yeah, this is a good question. Yeah, I think you can. I how do I say this in a way that doesn't sound horrible? If nobody is going to know who your professors are, like it's probably not going to be helpful to put them on your resume. You know what I mean? Like if you're going in, like if you're like, I did acting with Nemuna Ceesay, but like nobody's going to know who that is, then like take off, like you don't necessarily need it on your resume. If you did like a 6-month workshop with, I don't know, some like really like Stella Adler herself. Like if Stella Adler was here and you did a workshop with Stella Adler, like put Stella Adler on your resume, because then people will be like, oh, wow, yeah, they did that training with that person. Bob Krakauer, who is a on-camera teacher that Asher knows well, and everybody knows like Bob Krakauer, like taking a class with Bob Krakauer is it's a great thing to have on your resume. So like put that name on your resume. But other than that, like, then I don't think that it's necessary. And I think it's going to take up space. But if you disagree, you disagree, and that's fine. And go ahead and put your professors on it. Yeah. Awesome. Any other resume questions? Okay, great. Cool. I'm going to move on.
Wait, I just thought about one. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Dexter.
So just a brief one. This might be silly, but so like big paper. This is awkward. Big paper. And this is awkward. I can't do this. All right. So big paper. And then like boom. So you got big paper, and this is dumb. And you have like a text, right? Your text is all here. Sometimes I see people have like a smaller like a small photo of themselves on the resume. Is that just a stylized choice? Does it help? Like, is it just better to give them like the bigger version? Like, what's going on with that one?
I mean, if you have that, you still need a regular headshot too. So like, so make sure that you still have your regular headshot. It's okay if you want to put another little headshot, like a thumbnail on your resume. I don't think it's necessary. I think, I don't know, maybe directors feel differently. Like if your headshot gets like somehow like unconnected to your resume, maybe it's nice to have like a little picture on there, but I don't think it's necessary. So like if it's like a whole thing, and also it's annoying for printing because then you have to like print in color and it's like a whole thing. So if you feel like you really want to have a thumbnail on there, go for it, but you don't have to.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, cool. I'm going to really, this is not a shameless plug. It's just really much more helpful to show my own stuff. So I'm going to show you my website so that you can see a version of a website. My website is definitely not perfect at all. And it's kind of old. So like there are things that I need to change, but I think it'll be good to see what doesn't work too. Okay. Great. Can you all see that? Can I get a thumbs up from peeps? Great. Awesome. Okay, perfect. So this is my website. So why is a website, I think, so important? Because I really think websites are so important. And why I think that is because people are inevitably going to look you up on the internet, right? Like if they like what you do, they see you in an audition, whatever, they're going to look you up. They're going to look up your social media and they're going to look you up on Google. And if you don't have a website, then whatever other people have said about you, whatever other things you have done, whatever bad reviews are out there about you are going to be the first thing they see, right? Versus if you have a website, that's what they get to see first. So you get to show them like a curated version of like, this is who I am. This is how I want you to see me. This is the work that I want you to know about. These are the production photos I want you to see, versus them just randomly like seeing your stuff on Google and like coming up with their own narrative. Yeah. And making a website is so easy at this point, like that, like you kind of don't have it, like just take like literally 3 hours or something and make a website. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. It could literally be just like 2 pages, like your bio, this is who I am, and then your headshot and resume, and then your contact info. Like if that's all that you have time to do that. Yeah. So this is mine. I have my first page, which is my bio. Yeah. It's not anything too crazy. You don't want to have them like read too much or like have too many words, because then I'll just be like, I'm not going to read this. So just like as clear and concise as possible. I have my social media linked to also let them know like, yeah, feel free to like look at my stuff, right? So this is a good thing too. If you're on social media, just make sure that like, you don't have to, I don't believe in like, you know, like erasing everything except for professional things. Like, I think it's fine for them to see like, this is my life. But if there are things on your social media that you're like, I don't think I want a casting director or a director to see this, then maybe take it off, because they will look it up. So this is my first page. Then I have my headshot resume. So I think it's very, very important to have a tab that literally just says like headshot and resume, because that's what most people are going to want. So you want to make sure that they know exactly where to go to get it. If they have 5 seconds, make sure they know exactly which tab to click to get what they want. So I have both my headshot and my resume like literally here for them to see. But what you want to make sure that you have is links to actually download PDFs of your resume, and or the headshot's not a PDF, but a PDF of your resume, and like an easy way to download your headshot. Yeah. So that's like really important, is that they have something to click on where they can immediately download your stuff. I have my reel here, so I'll take this time to talk about reels a little bit. So I actually think, I'm going to stop this really quick. I actually think reels are more important now than ever. I didn't actually have a reel until this year, which was not great. Like I should have had a reel a while ago. But now, because everything is going so much more in like the online kind of self-tape land, like all of that stuff, people not being able to see you in person, they're gonna need more information. And like, as Dexter was saying, like having your headshot's great, but like they wanna see you in action. And having a reel is important. Now, are you going to have TV film credits right out of the gate for your reel? No, you are not. So what can you do to create a reel? You can get together with some folks and film a scene. There are places where you can go to get scenes filmed for your reel, because another thing that's important is it has to be good footage. Like I would rather you not have a reel than have a reel that has like bad footage where you can't hear, you can't see, you're like, what's going on? The acting's not great. Even if the acting's great, you can't see it. Like that's not what you want to do. So even if you have a really good self-tape that's like has great lighting, you're doing great work in it, you have a reader that's like with you, or you're doing a really great monologue, like if that's what you have when you start, go for it. But you have to make sure that it's good footage. And if you have footage, but it's not like at the point where you want to create it, like put it into a reel, you can put like specific clips of things onto your website. So if it's not a reel yet, that's like all spliced together, I would still make sure that you have some good clips of yourself doing things. If you're musical theater, have some great clips of you singing. If you're, you know, a straight actor, you want to do theater work, have some great monologues or a good Shakespeare monologue that's like self-taped, so that there is footage that they can watch of you, even if you don't have like TV credits yet. Does that make sense? Patrick, I saw your hand.
You answered my question. I was going to ask about like taping yourself or including footage of you in things.
Yeah, I just cannot stress enough like that it has to be good. And by good, I don't mean just good acting. Like I really mean like good quality. Like it's really important because you don't want to like come off as like amateurish. And I don't mean that in like the term like you're green. Like if you're just out, that's fine. That's great. Like you're just starting, but you want to show people that you know what it means to have like good footage of yourself. Is there anybody in here that wants to? I'm looking at you, Asher, or anybody else. Yeah, that wants to add something. Go ahead.
Oh, I just wrote you. Nemuna mentioned those places where you can go and people have created a business of saying, hey, I'll write you a scene and I'll shoot it for you, and we'll just do a simple shot reverse shot and it'll be clean and stuff like that. That can work. They're going to charge you, and my stance on it is if you're going to put down money, you better get something good for it. By and large, those people are writing scenes quick and just saying, here, toss this, and just trying to get pictures of you on screen, which means the scenes usually suck. One thing that would be really good to do if you're going to do that, well, I should say the scenes are going to be problematic, and then also they're going to pair you up with someone random who you don't know. So if you want to do that, get together with a friend who you trust, and both of you want to do this together, and find a script that you love, not something that's from a film that's recognizable, but you could write something, whatever you want. And they may offer and give you things that they want to write for you, that they've written for other people, and you can peruse those things. But don't go into a situation where people are just trying to put you into a mill and just to churn out footage, because it's not going to be worth it in the end. What Nemuna is saying is right, that good footage is important.
Awesome, thank you.
Can I actually
can I ask something?
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry, a question for you, Ashley. You said not to use anything that's recognizable.
Mm-hmm.
So that means no like recognizable plays or anything. It has to be.
Oh no, sorry. If you're doing like a monologue or something like that, or you're putting a just something of you doing like what Nemuna is saying, a bit of you doing Shakespeare or something like that, that's fine. What the trick that we're all trying to do, because there's an infinite amount of films out in the world, the trick is you want to put something on your reel that someone's going to say, oh, that's like a short film they did, or that's from some movie that I haven't seen, instead of them thinking, oh, they paid someone to do that for them, right? So if you're doing a scene from Silver Linings Playbook, they're going to know that that wasn't a movie that you made. Do you follow?
Yes, got you.
And last thing, just because I know I'm going to have to leave, and I think Nemuna may get to this, you guys may talk about things like Backstage and Actors Access and stuff like that, which are great resources. Everything Nemuna is saying that you need for those websites is spot on, except there's one thing that you need to be aware of. On Actors Access, when you create a profile there, there's an order in which they look at you. So they look at people who have or just a resume or something last, and then they look at people who are have a headshot and a resume, and then they look at people who have a real headshot and resume. But if you want to be at the top of the pile to be seen first, and it's just a little thing in their system, you have to have a slate shot. And unfortunately, no one ever tells anyone this. So, and slate shot is simple. It's just you in front of a camera saying, hi, my name is Asher. I'm 5'10", I live in New York, or whatever you want to say. So just add that to your list of things. Nemuna, I'm sure we'll cover that, but okay, that's it.
Awesome. I actually didn't know about the slate shot, so thank you for saying that. Awesome.
It's not a very well publicized
I'm about to do it today. Great. Awesome. Thanks, Asher. Great. Yeah. Okay. I want to, was there any other questions before I want to just mention the rest of my website real quick and then talk a little bit about which website things, which website creators to look at? What are the good ones? But are there any other questions before I do that? Okay, great. Okay, so Great. So I have my reel on here, talked about that. Then I also have production photos, which is important if you are a theater actor. Like if you are a theater person, if that's mostly what you do, so, you know, you'd be talking about doing regional theater and things like that. These production photos need to be like good quality production photos, like not just like, you know, your mom was sitting in the front row and snapped a picture of you in a show. Like these need to be like legit like production photos. And so, you know, these websites give you many different ways of how to do them. Always credit the photographer, I'll just say. But that's why I have these production photos, because I think it's important for people to see like that I'm well-rounded and can do lots of different types of theater stuff. If you are mostly a TV film person, maybe if anybody disagrees with me, let me know, but I don't think it's important to have production photos, like stills from your, you know, TV work. I am like, speaking of multi-hyphenates, I am a multi-hyphenate. I'm an acting coach as well. And so I have a tab on my website that is specifically dedicated to, a couple tabs that are specifically dedicated to my coaching work. So if you are a multi-hyphenate, right, and you're like, I'm an actor, but I'm also a playwright, you can have like tabs that are dedicated to acting, and then another tab that's about your playwriting that like lists your plays and, you know, any productions that are happening and things like that. So don't feel like, at least when you're first starting out, that you need to have multiple websites for the multiple things that you do. You can put them all onto one website just so it makes it easier for you. Yeah. I have a news and press tab, which I actually think is not necessary anymore. I think when I first made this website, it was more of a thing, but I don't think it's necessary. So I'm just going to put that out there. I don't think you need to be like, these are the reviews of my shows. And then again, like the resume, make sure it's really, really easy to get a hold of you, to contact you if they like what you got. Yeah. So this is my representation, my agents and my managers contact, because that's who I want them to contact. But if it's you, you can have a contact. So I'll show you on my coaching one. You can have a contact thing so that you don't actually have to put your, like, nobody can just like email you or like get your phone number or whatever, because it's just it could be risky to just put all your information online. But if you don't want to just put your email on there, you can have like a contact form at the end of your website so that people can contact you if they want to, you know, want you to audition for something or something like that. Any questions on that last little part?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, are you also going to go over like managers and stuff like that?
Yeah, I have a thing about like how to find, how to do that kind of thing. So yeah, we'll get there. Great. Okay, so in terms of, yep, you're welcome. In terms of how to make a website, so the top 3 kind of website builders that I know are good are Squarespace. I'll put these in the thing. Squarespace, Weebly, and Wix. So I think Wix is actually the best because it's easy. It's really easy to use. And what they do is they have, this is for all of them, they have templates. So like you sign up, you have to pay. Don't remember how much they are, do your research, but you have to pay. And then you choose like a template and you can kind of just like plug in your information from there. Yeah. So it's not like you're literally like coding and like creating your own website. You're just plugging in your information. So it's super easy. Wix, I think Wix and Weebly are very easy to use. Weebly is probably the easiest, but mine was Weebly. But it also doesn't have as many, like, it's harder to make it look like really nice and professional. Wix is also easy to make look professional. Squarespace is not as easy, but like if you kind of know what you're doing, it's like really beautiful and great. So that's kind of like those are like the 3 main ones. There might be other ones at this point. But those are the ones that I know of. And you have to pay for a domain as well. So what I'll also say is if you have the money to put up a little bit more money so that you don't have to have like Nemuna nemunarceesay.com/weebly/blah, blah, blah, right? So that you can actually just get nemunarceesay.com without the .weebly .whatever. I would say do that because again, it just makes it seem more professional. Like you can actually like just have your name .com. I would also say .com. If you can get a .com, that's a lot better than getting like a .co, which is like confusing always, or like I don't know what the other ones are, but like the .com, if you can get a .com, like that's the way to go. Any other questions on websites before I move on from websites? No? Okay, great, awesome. Okay, now I would love to move on to what Ashta was talking about, which is casting websites, right? Like if I go out, get out of school, I move to New York or I stay in New York, and then I have all my marketing things. I got my website, my resume, my reel, or clips for my reel. Now, how do I actually get auditions, right? And so there's kind of two different categories of this, right? There's theater auditions and there's TV film auditions. Most of these casting websites that I'm talking about have both. Like you can do both. You can find auditions for both of those on it. So I'm going to start with Playbill, playbill.com. Again, I'll put it in the thing if y'all haven't heard of it. The great thing about Playbill, and I think it's a jobs tab. Like if you go to playbill.com, there's like a tab on the top right that says jobs. That's where you'll go to find auditions. The great thing about Playbill, as far as I know, and if any of the information I say today is incorrect, I apologize. But playbill.com, usually you find an audition, you like scroll through, you can also kind of filter what you're looking for, like non-union theater jobs, right? Union television jobs, like you can filter. And usually Playbill, you don't have to pay anything. Like usually at the end, it'll say how to apply, and you can they'll say email this thing, your headshot and resume to try to get an audition for this. So it's not like a paying service, which is really great because a lot of the ones that I'm talking about are paying. Some are not super expensive, but you do have to pay. So Playbill is kind of the first one I go to. Again, I think of Playbill usually more for theater jobs, but they do have some like student film stuff and like, you know, some kind of like indie films and like things like that. But I usually think of it more for theater. So playbill.com is the first one. The second one is backstage.com. Again, lots of theater stuff, similar. You can filter what you're looking for. And they have a little bit more TV film stuff than I think Playbill has. There is a little fee, I think, for if you want to for a certain amount of submissions. I think it's mostly free, but I think if you want to be able to submit to as many things as you want, then I think you have to pay a little fee. But again, just like do your research on all this stuff. Yeah? Great. Okay, so now I want to do what Asher was talking about, which is Actorsaccess.com. Now this one, if you want to do, I don't know why I posted like that. If you want to do TV film, like if you're like, I'm interested in that part of the industry, then you definitely need to get an Actors Access account. Again, I think, I'm actually unclear if I'm unclear if there is a free version or not. But even if there is a free version, you probably should pay a little bit. I don't know if there's a free version actually, but you get to submit. You can submit yourself to the auditions that you see, and you kind of filter in. You put in your information, so you say like, this is how tall I am. This is the type of work I'm interested in. These are the special skills that I have. You check off all the things you do, and then Actors Access will actually send you auditions based on the auditions that you are right for. So I wouldn't only do that. I would also go through them and see what you're interested in, but they will kind of send you things that you fit the bill for. So that's great as well. So as like Asher was saying, you can put your headshot on there, your resume on there. If you have a reel or clips, you can put clips on there. And I guess this slate shot is also important, so that's good. The thing about Actors Access is you have to pay extra for more for video clips. So I think you get 2 headshots you can put on there for free. If you want more pictures, you have to pay more. And if you want videos, I think it's something like $22 per minute or something. It's not cheap. So like putting my reel on there was like a lot of money. So like, just so you know, like you can put like a minute of a clip on there or something, just so there's something there, but you do have to pay extra for video clips. Zoe says, I believe it's free to join, but if you don't subscribe for a paid account, it costs money to submit. That's exactly right. That's it. Yeah. So you can submit if you pay for the membership, you can submit for anything for free. And if you don't pay, then you submit per audition. And I think it's only like $275 or something per audition. It's not crazy. So I would definitely start there. Like, don't feel like you have to pay a whole subscription fee. You can just submit per thing. Yeah, cost of the subway, exactly. Cool. Any questions on that? No? Great. So I would definitely, there's a lot of kind of casting sites. These are like the main 3, I think. If you go like to LA, for example, there's one called Casting Frontier. So probably same thing for like that you need if you're in LA, probably same thing for like Chicago or Atlanta. If you go to a different region, then I would definitely check out like what are the casting sites for those places. Actorsaccess, Backstage, and Playbill, I think are pretty all-encompassing. Like no matter where you go, you can use those sites. But there are other ones. So just make sure you do your research if you move somewhere else is basically what I'm saying. Yeah. Great. And if you don't have a ton, like I get it. Like if you don't have money to sign up for all of these sites, like don't, right? Like use the free versions for as long as you can. If you start to figure out this is the one I like more, this is the one that I'll invest in, then invest in one, right? And go from there. Like you don't have to spend like, you know, $10,000 when you get out of school to like pay for everything. Like don't do that. Yeah. Great. Any other casting website questions before I move on to representation? Okay, great. I know this is a lot of info, y'all. So thanks for sticking with me. I'm not going to
Nemuna, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I was wondering, do you recommend taking classes and like getting a resume and headshot and all these things before kind of making the investment in the Actorsaccess and Backstage?
Actually, no. I think getting onto these casting websites, I think is important because part of the job, your job as an actor really is mostly auditioning. Like that's your job. Like every once in a while you get to do something great and fun and it's awesome and you book a show and you're like, yay, this is great. But like the majority of what you'll be doing to this day, the majority of what I do is auditioning, and it's taken a really long time to get good at it. It's taken a really long time. And so the sooner that you can start doing it, you can start now. Like you can go onto these casting websites, find things that you want to submit for and put yourself on tape, because the more that you can get it, like get good at not just taping, but also submitting, and also like getting to know like who are these casting directors, what do they look for? This is actually great. I want to talk about this too. So thank you, Doris. So yes, do it now, do it first, so you can start to practice. But the other thing I want to say is when it comes to like casting, there are specific casting directors, right, that like work in each region. So like there are casting directors in New York that are like big New York casting directors, and each of them have their own thing, right? Like talking about vibes earlier, like each of them have their own vibes. Like there's one in LA, her name is Allison. Oh God, what is her last name? Allison Jones. She's an LA casting director and she casts like The Office. She casts Veep, I think. She has a very specific thing that she does, right? Like all of her shows have like a similar kind of vibe. She definitely does comedy. She does like very like mockumentary style comedy. So like getting to know each casting director and what it is that they do is also your job. So like there's one in New York named Jonathan Strauss. He casts all of the Law and Orders and all of the spinoffs. So he does FBI, he does Law and Order. He does also, you get to know like who is this casting director? What do they do? Do they do the type of work that I want to be doing? So I should be submitting for this casting director every time I see them. I should be watching these shows so that I know what they're looking for, because they all kind of do the same thing, so that I know how to audition for these shows and this casting director. Yeah. So much of your job is auditioning. Your job is doing well in a show if you get booked in it. And your job is research. Like, that is your job, to research who are these people. I know you hear all the time, like, well, it's my job to watch television shows. It is literally your job to watch television shows. Like, if you want to do TV, you need to be watching television shows. You need to start understanding like what each streaming service does. Netflix has a different feel than HBO, which has a different feel than NBC, right? And the network shows. I get cast in network shows mostly. So I'm like, okay, that's how people kind of see my vibe. And so now I know, like, that's how to do it. When I get an audition for an HBO show, I'm like, okay, this is raw, this is edgy. Like, that's what HBO does, right? So doing your research about like, who are these people who are casting these shows? Who are these directors? Directors are harder because there's many more of them. And what is the vibe of this network, or, you know, this network show, this streaming service? Like, what types of shows do they do? Does that make sense?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Great. Okay, I'm moving on. Oh, Patrick, yeah.
Nemuna, do you audition for commercials? What's the deal with?
Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about that.
How necessary is it to do commercials?
Yeah, it's not necessary. I'm going to talk about commercials at the end, so I'll add all of my feelings. I have many feelings about commercials, so I'll add them at the end. Awesome. Okay. And I can actually talk about it a little bit as I go into talking about representation. So I'm not going to take a break because we have a lot to get through. So if you need to leave and go to the bathroom or whatever and come back, like, just go for it. Awesome. So reps, this is the question, right? It's like, how do you get a rep? Like, how do you get agents? How do you get managers? And it's not clear cut at all. It's just hard. And a lot of what we do in this industry is just like trial and error. And like I said at the beginning, everybody's journey is different. So you just kind of have to like keep moving forward on your journey with the intention of what you want, and just like know it'll show up in the way that it's supposed to show up. But some thoughts on how to get representation. The number one best way to get representation is through referrals. So this is assuming that you have friends that already have representation, right? But if you do have friends that have an agent, for example, and they like their agent, and you know this friend well enough to ask them, like, can you send my headshot and resume to your agent? That is the best way to go about it. Like, that is the way that most agents will be like, oh, great, we love this actor that we work with. And like, oh, they said some great things about this person. So like, yeah, we'll reach out and like do an audition or whatever with them to see if we're the right fit. So that's the number one way to do it. Now, I recognize that like probably for most of you, like most of your friends don't have representation. So that's probably a hard way. But as you continue to move, like, right, if you're out of school for 3 years or whatever, and your friends are starting to get representation and you're like, I really need somebody, that's the best way to do it. Does that make sense? Great. Okay, so some other ways to go about it. There are what are called like showcases, like industry showcases. Now, these are really tricky because many of them are scams. So you have to be really, really careful. But there are some that are not necessarily scams. Like, there are some that like are better than others, where they're like, okay, you're gonna audition for this showcase, and then we're gonna put together a showcase of like scenes, right? They take like, I don't know, 10 people, 20 people, whatever, and you put together like a showcase of scenes, and then you perform it, and they invite agents and representation to come see it. And then if somebody likes you, then you have a meeting with them, and then you're represented, right? So it's possible. There are some good ones. There's also really big ones like the CBS, is it? CBS, maybe it's the NBC. I get all the networks mixed up. One of the networks has like a diversity showcase, right? And this is like a really big thing, and it's real, and you audition for it, and the network like takes like a big group of people, and then they have a showcase where they invite like casting directors and agents and everybody to this showcase, network executives and things like that. So there are big ones that you can audition for, and then there's smaller ones. So you just have to do your research. If you see one and you're just like not sure, I don't know, put out a Facebook status or something and be like, has anybody heard of this thing? Like, is this legit? And see what you find out. Yeah. But just make sure if they're ever asking you for like a ton of money, it's probably a scam. So that's the way. If you find a good industry showcase, that's totally a great way to finally get in front of agents and managers, because it's a hard thing to do. So that's a way. How did I get my representation? I went to grad school, and at the end of grad school, we had a showcase, and that's how I got my agents, because agents and reps every single year do the grad school showcase cycle, right? In, I don't know when it is, March or something. And so that's a really good way to do it. But in order to do that, you have to go through 3 years of grad school, which if you want to do, that's fantastic and awesome, and go for it. But if you don't want to do it, like, don't just do grad school to do the showcase at the end. You know what I mean? But some of the other programs as well, I don't know if, Alessandro, you're doing Stella Adler, you said? Does Stella Adler have a showcase of any kind, or no?
Yeah, when we finish, there should be a showcase. Yeah.
So there are some programs in New York and in other places that are shorter than a grad school program, where like a year-long program or something that you can go in, and then at the end of that program, they do a showcase. So if you're like, I want to do some sort of training that culminates in a showcase, you don't necessarily have to do a 3-year grad program to do that. You can just continue your education in a shorter amount of time that culminates in a showcase. Those tend to be really great ways to do it. I got my manager by just being in a show that my manager was repping somebody else in the show and came to see the show, and then was like, I like you, want to represent you. And it was like, great. So that's another way too, is just like trusting in the universe and being like, somebody's going to see me and then it'll happen. Right. But again, you have to get to a certain point in your career. This actually feels like a good time to just remind y'all that like, the acting game is a game of persistence. It's a game of perseverance and a game of persistence, and it's going to take a long time. But if you stick with it and you keep going and you keep training, it'll happen, right? You will finally get into a show where agents come to see it and they see you and they want to rep you, right? Like, you don't need, is it easier to have an agent to get into certain auditions? Sure. But like I was just saying, there are tons of casting websites where you can submit yourself, right? So you do not need an agent directly out of school. Like, you don't. And also, a lot of agents are scams too. So like, if an agent comes up to you and is like, oh my God, I want to rep you, blah, 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 like, again, do your research on them, because it's better to not have an agent and like, keep all of your money, because I have to give a lot of my money to my representation, keep all your money and like, and submit yourself, than it is to have an agent that's not getting you work and taking your money. Like, it's not worth it. Yeah. So I know it seems like, oh, the first thing I have to do is get an agent, but that's not true. Yeah. Make sure that it's the right fit, make sure that it's the right time. You don't have to do it right away. So those are kind of like, be in a program that culminates in a showcase, find an industry showcase that's legit, and get a referral from a friend. Those are kind of the best ways, or just like be discovered by an agent, which is, you have no control over. So, but those are kind of the ways in which you can get representation. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Also, how does it look good on a resume when you have like does it look better when you have training from like a conservatory or some kind of program, or does it look better when you have training like from a university like you? Does that like have any weight on a resume?
It honestly depends on the university, and it depends on the program. Like, there are some like, for example, there are, which I'm going to talk about a little bit, but there are like apprenticeship programs. Like Actors Theater of Louisville has an apprenticeship program that's very reputable, and it's like a year-long program. And it's not a university, but it is a program that, like, when people see that on your resume, they're like, oh, great, that's awesome that they were a part of that. then there are universities that are universities, but like nobody cares. Like nobody knows what they are. Nobody cares about the program. So like, even if it's like a legit master's degree from a certain university, people aren't going to care. Doesn't mean that you're not going to care. Like you might have gotten great training that's going to continue to help you, but putting it on your resume isn't going to make it more reputable. Versus like if you went to Yale, whether Yale is a better program than University of Idaho or something, like doesn't matter. It's Yale. And so it's going to look really good on your resume, right? So it depends on the program. University versus like conservatory program that's not really where the comparison lies. It's just, it depends on the name really of the program.
Can you write down what you said about the apprenticeship, whatever it's called?
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'm going to give you some other examples of apprenticeships as well. Patrick.
I feel kind of blasphemous asking this question, but like, is Actors Theater of Louisville still the deal? Because like my parents did it in the 90s and they were like, Actors Theater in the 90s, like that was the best. But I don't really know what they're doing now.
I think we'll see for sure at the end of the pandemic, because they have a new artistic director and things, so it's different. But Actors Theater is still really reputable because there's the Humana Festival, which is a really big deal, and it continues to be a big deal, and lots of great work comes out of Humana. So that's why it's a big deal now. Yeah, not blasphemous at all. Any other questions?
Yeah. You said that showcase scams will have you pay like a bunch of money. Do regular like legitimate showcases have you pay money anyway, but like less?
Depends. I don't actually know in terms of probably like the industry showcases that aren't scams probably do have you pay some money. Showcases like, as far as I know, like as far as like the NBC or CBS diversity showcase, I don't think you pay money. It's like you audition and then you get in and then you're like, yay, I'm in this showcase. And I don't think you have to pay anything for those. So I think it depends. But you know, it should be fairly quick to be able to figure out if a showcase is a scam or not. Like it should be pretty fast to be able to tell. Also just go with your gut, because often you know, and don't, if you feel in your gut like, ooh, I don't know about this, like don't do it just because you're like, oh, but I should do it, because if it's a scam, nobody's going to come to the showcase anyway, and so you will have paid money and nobody will be there. So yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else on that? CBS, thanks, Claudia. I thought it was CBS, but I was like, I don't know. There's so many. ABC, NBC, great. Okay, cool. I'm gonna go to. Oh no! One other big thing to say about how to find reps. This is actually really important. There is and this will take me into the next section, which is about how to continue your training. There is, I don't know if y'all have heard about it, but there's something called one-on-one. It's like a I don't even know what, actually, I'm going to share my screen because I pulled it up and maybe it says on the website what it is. I don't know. It just says where actors find success. So it's a place in New York. I think they also have one in LA. That does like online classes and workshops. And many of the classes are with casting directors or agents and representation. Like an agent will do like a self-tape workshop or something where you can kind of like, you know, learn from them, which is helpful no matter what. So even if you go in and you don't get representation out of it, but you learn what an agent is actually looking for, you learn what a casting director is actually looking for, super helpful. But some people legit get representation out of these workshops. Yeah, doesn't happen all the time. Don't go in thinking that's going to happen, but sometimes you'll do a workshop with like an agent or a manager or something, and at the end they'll be like, oh, I like you. Or you can even ask like, hey, I would love to have a meeting with you or something. And you can get representation out of taking these workshops. So there are, I don't know if this one's going to show me because I'm not. Yeah. Okay. So I'll show you some other ones too. One-on-one is one of the main ones, but there's other ones as well. One-on-one is the one that I hear about the most. Like I think it's like I don't know if it's any better than like Actors Connection or the other ones that I'll show you, but it's the one people talk about the most. So you get like classes and intensives. There's a casting database. I don't know what that means, but there's a casting database, master classes, like, and it's literally with people from the industry. So it's super helpful. What I will say is that like they all kind of cost like different amounts of money. So it could be very easy to spend a lot of money on these classes, but do not spend all your money on these classes. Like make sure that you're really targeting what you want. So for example, like I said before, like make sure you do your research on the casting directors. And then when you see a casting director that you're like, ooh, I want to work with them one day, or like they do the type of work that I want to do, I'm going to spend this $49 or $100 on this class because I really care about the type of work that this casting director does. Like, don't just start blindly taking classes, because that you will quickly go through all your money and you might be learning things that you're like, man, I don't actually care about this at all, right? Like, how did I end up in this voiceover workshop? I actually don't care about voiceover, right? So like, just make sure that you really do your research about who these people are before you start signing up for their classes. But it's another, like, I know a few people that have actually gotten representation out of taking these classes or booked jobs. Like if they do a casting director workshop or something and the casting director really likes them, like a year down the line, they'll call them in for a show that they're directing or something and they book it, right? And so it's a really great way to kind of make those connections. Oh, you're still here, Asher. Yeah, go for it.
Sorry, I'm going back and forth between things. Just on the one-on-one stuff in these kinds of classes, and Nemuna, I apologize if you said this. Don't do classes with directors. And did you say that? Oh, here's why. The directors are going to make, if they're lucky, in a great year, they'll make one movie a year if it's amazing, right? So, and that movie is going to have, 20 to 60 roles once a year. They're not out there on a weekly basis looking for actors. And even if they know actors, they're mostly going to get them from casting directors or people that they've worked with before, not from a class. The people you want to take these classes with are people who are casting episodics, procedurals, like the CSIs, the Law and Orders, any of the Chicago shows, right? And even if it's not the head, the assistants are great because the assistants do most of the grunge work. Those of you who've been in class with me, I tell a story about auditions and I talk about Schmucky Intern is my favorite character. You want to have a class with Schmucky Intern once he's a few years in the business, because he's going to take over that office and you want to be the one that he discovers because he's the only one who's like hungry to find new people. So people who are casting episodics, because every single week they need 20 actors.
Yep.
That's all I have. Okay.
So good. Yeah. Thank you about the thing for the directors. Another thing I didn't know. And just in general, to kind of speak on what Asha was saying too, is that like, they want to find, like every casting director and agent and manager wants to be the one that finds you, right? Like they want to be the one that discovers the next big thing. So like, don't go into these things being like, oh, they don't want me. Like they're looking for a celebrity. Like they care about like what's on my resume. Like they want to be the one that discovers the new talent, right? And so like, believe that you can be that new talent that they find and are excited about. Yeah. Great. Okay, so there is that one-on-one, and then just a couple other options. One-on-one you have to subscribe to, and you also have to audition for. So this is what sets it apart from the other ones. You have to, it says somewhere down here, you have to audition for it. So you can do one scene and you must bring your own reader, as they call it, or you can do 2 contemporary monologues. And so you audition, and then once they watch your audition, you either get accepted or denied. I have a feeling they accept more people than they deny, but I'm not sure about that. And then once you're in to one-on-one, you can start signing up for classes, but you still have to pay for the classes even after you've gotten in. Yeah. Then there's Actors Connection, which is similar, kind of does the same thing as one-on-one, except you don't have to audition. So you can just sign up. Here's some examples of like what they do. So see, they're not cheap necessarily. I think there's classes versus master classes. Classes are over a longer amount of time. Master classes are like 1 day or something like that. Again, do your research because some of this information I'm saying may not be exactly correct. But yeah, so there's all kinds of, you know, things here, and you just click on it and then you show up. Yeah. Then there's another one that I don't know what it is, but I heard about it called Actors Launchpad, which just seems like a third kind of version of this. So you guys can kind of do your own research about like what they offer, how they're different. But it's a really great way to continue your training and a really great way to be seen by agents, managers, and casting directors. Any questions? Yeah, Kristen.
Have you ever like taken any of these classes? Like, is it something that like you often go and do, or when do you find?
Yeah, great question. Great question. I personally have not taken one-on-one classes, but I have a lot of friends that have. Like, so even like actors that like me have been working now out in the industry for a long time, like still will. One of my best friends takes casting director workshops at one-on-one all the time because she's always trying to like, you know, find new casting directors, get seen, get in front of these casting directors. But again, like I said, she's very discerning about which casting directors she goes in for. Like she really makes sure that it's like the ones that she actually really wants to work with, or she wants to hear from them. So I do not do them, but a lot of people do them. And I think they're a really great thing to do when you're first starting out as well. Does that answer your question, Kristen? Awesome. Great. Sahar.
I guess this is different than casting director classes, but I guess acting classes, once we're out of school, is there a recommended amount that we should take yearly, or I don't?
Yeah, great question. This actually takes me directly into what I was about to talk about. So thank you, Sahar, which is continuing your training. Yeah. So this one-on-one kind of thing is an example of continuing your training. They also have things like I was talking about of like, if you want to learn other things like voiceover work, right? There are specific classes for that. So there are those kind of places that just offer like, you know, workshops and master classes and things like that on specific topics. And then there are, you know, like self-taping, for example, as I've kind of been alluding to this whole time, is like an incredibly important skill that you all need to have. Like the number one thing that you need to start learning how to do well is self-taping. You need to get self-tape equipment. You need to get like a tripod. You need to get lighting of some sort so that you have a good self-tape setup, because it's so important. There are lots of self-tape classes that you can take to kind of learn how to do it well. On camera classes, like I talked about Bob Krakauer, who's really hard to get into his class, but there's other classes and wait lists and things that you can do. So taking, like, if you're interested in TV film, taking on camera classes is something that you can do. And then there are, you know, classes like one-off classes that you can take at Stella Adler or, you know, Atlantic Theater Company, or like many of these, many theaters even in New York offer like classes every once in a while and things like that. So do I think you need to spend all your money on training, outside training? Don't spend all your money on it. Like really budget and figure out how much money do I have to spend on extra training, because you can also do a lot of it yourself, right? Like if you have other friends who are actors, like I know Asher does, like every week he does like an on-camera thing with just a bunch of actors he knows, where they all get together and they bring scenes and they tape them, and they sometimes people have auditions that they work and things like that. So you can get together with your friends and continue to learn this together, right? So that you don't have to be spending all your money on these classes, because some of the classes are great and some of them are hit or miss, and you know, you don't want to end up like spending your rent money on acting classes. So I would, if you know that you want to do continued training of some sort, I would budget out like how much do I have per month to spend on an acting class, right? And if you're like, okay, I have $100 to spend a month on acting classes, I'm going to set that aside, then you can start to kind of see what to do from there. But I also don't burn yourself out either. Like, especially like when you first graduate, if you've already been doing like a ton of work, it's okay to like rest and like not act every single day. Like, it's okay. Yeah. You don't want to burn yourself out. Like I said, acting is a persistence game, right? You have to be able to stick with it. And if you burn yourself out too quickly, it's not going to be good. Yeah. So use your discretion, see how you feel. If you need to take a month off, take a month off, and use your friends. Get together for readings of plays that you want to read once the pandemic is over in your living room, and just like read a play and do that, you know? Oh, cool. Thanks, Madison. Atlantic Acting School is doing free virtual classes every Tuesday. Yeah. Awesome. So yeah, again, do your research. There's lots of great resources out there. Some of which are not crazy expensive. Does that answer your question, Sahar? Great. Love it. I want to go back really quickly to something that I think Padraig brought up, which is the regional theater thing. To be a regional theater actor is, again, to just audition, right? So if you're non-union, so do people know, is anybody confused by what I mean when I say non-union or union? Okay, great. So if you are not in the union, you can go to what are called EPAs. They're like big general auditions. And you can audition for big musicals, Broadway musicals, and also like regional theater shows. Yeah. You can also find them on Playbill, on Backstage. So if you want to do the regional circuit, you just have to start auditioning for regional theaters. Like that is the way to do it. There's like no other way, but you're in a good place if you're in New York, because that's where most of them are going to be casting out of. Also get to know the casting directors that cast for these regional theaters, like Pat McCorkle, for example. I will write her name. Most of the regional theater shows that I audition for are through Pat McCorkle. So get to know if Pat McCorkle is doing a casting, like, or a casting workshop or a class at one-on-one, and you want to do regional theater, then make sure you go to that, like take that class. You know what I mean? There are very specific casting directors that cast regional theater versus New York theater versus TV film. And so getting to know who those people are and getting in front of them, and also going to these EPAs. Usually they happen at either at Pearl Studios, which is downtown, or the Actors Equity Building, which is also in Midtown. Of course, once the pandemic is over. Right now, everything is self-tape. But yeah, so you just have to put yourself in the gaze of the people who are in charge of casting for regional theaters. Yes, Padraig.
Cool. Okay. And then, so what's the deal? Like, let's say you get booked with one of these regional theaters. Do you have to handle the logistics of moving to that place?
No.
Or do they like set you up?
Yeah, if you get booked through a regional theater, even if you're non-ec, as far as I know, double check that, they will pay for all your housing. They won't pay for your food usually, but they will bring you and they will pay for your housing. If you're doing like an apprenticeship program, which is another really great way to get involved with regional theater, there's one. Let me actually give you the list of them now, since we're in this place. So there's the one that I mentioned earlier, which was Actors Theater of Louisville. There's one through Williamstown Theater Festival. There's one at Powerhouse Theater, which is in upstate New York, I believe. It's at Vassar College, so I don't know where that is. There's one at Chautauqua. Cincinnati Playhouse has a good one. And those are kind of the main ones. There's one at Boston Conservatory that is, there you go, Poughkeepsie. There's one at Boston Conservatory that is a musical theater based one. But those other ones are more theater training, and those are great ways to get involved in the regional theater. And if you're at those apprenticeship programs, they may not pay for, they may give you a stipend of some sort, but it may not be huge. But if you book a job through a regional theater, they should be getting like flying you out and setting you up with housing and all of that stuff. And sometimes you'll get a non-union contract. Sometimes you can get EMC points to get you towards an equity card at these theaters. And sometimes if you book like a big enough job, like if you book a job at the Guthrie or something as a non-union artist, they will have to give you your equity card, or they have to offer you your equity card at the end. You have to get it through in order to pay. No, I think you have to get it in order to work at that theater. You have to be equity. And so they have to give you an equity contract. Yes, Patrick.
Sorry, I have so many questions. You keep springing up ideas.
Yeah.
So I want to be like a good union paying, you know, I like the idea of unions. Like I want to be a wobbly, you know, I want to support the unions in this country. But also it kind of seems like actors union, it almost seems like there's equal reasons to do it and not to do it. And so I guess I just wonder, like, what's the recommendation there? I'm sure it's situational.
Yeah, again, this could be an entire semester. But and this again is also my own opinion. So there are lots of opinions on this. In terms of actors' equity, I tend to say once it's available to you, take it. Because it's just the amount of abuse that happens if you're a non-equity actor in the theater space, which hopefully will change soon, but who knows, is just horrible. And there are just so many more good opportunities, I think, to be a union actor. Now, if you go to Chicago, for example, maybe not, right? Like, I think it depends on where you want to go. And maybe if you're offered it right out of school, don't take it. But like, I don't know. I tend to think having a union card is helpful. In terms of SAG, like in terms of SAG-AFTRA, the TV one, the TV film union, don't do it unless you have to do it. Like, do not do it. Like, don't do it. It's really expensive. Like, it's so expensive to join. And it really, you're not gonna get into those rooms anyway for a while, probably. Like, you can't do any independent films. You can't do you can't do anything really that you need to be doing at first in the TV film sector if you're in the union. Because once you're in the union, you can only do union jobs. And that means like, you know, network television shows. And it's just really hard to get into those rooms unless like, until you like have representation and until you've been working for a while. So I have the opposite feelings about actors' equity versus SAG-AFTRA. But I think, again, everybody's journey is their own journey. And with getting your card specifically, everybody has a different way of going about it. I think if you go the EMC route, which is like do equity shows every once in a while and keep getting your points until you get up to enough points to get your card, that seems to be a good way to kind of gauge if you're ready or not, right? Like if you've been getting EMC points and then eventually you get there, you could be like, yeah, I feel like, you know, I've done enough shows at this point that like I'm ready to be in the union. But it's case by case basis. So like, if you're starting to work towards it and you're just not sure, I would like specifically talk to somebody about like, this is my circumstance. What do you think I should do? Does that make sense? Great. Yeah. It's hard. And again, and another thing to just note is I got my equity card through going to grad school as well. So that's a great way to do it. Like I would say, if you're going to go to an MFA program, if you can choose a program that gives you your card at the end, that's awesome. Great. Yes, Sophia.
So like for SAG-AFTRA, like the first casting call type thing that I went to was for West Side Story, and I did like the special ability dancing for it, but I was on the set for so long that I pretty much got all the points I needed to join, and now like a year has passed and I'm a must join. So it's like I have to either join or should I join? But it's like the first thing I did, so I don't feel safe doing that.
Wait, why are you a must join at this point? Because you shouldn't be until you've done because you've done one job. So if you do another job, you should be a must join, not now.
Right. Like if I wanted to do any more work at the union rate, I have to join the union is pretty much what they're telling me.
Okay, what I would do in your case specifically is like just hold off, like don't join now, just hold off. And if you get another job that's worth it, then do it. You know what I mean? Like if you get a big enough job that you're like, okay, yeah, now I can join, but like don't just join now because you're a must join, because you don't have to join until. So with SAG-AFTRA, y'all, you can do, I think it's called a Taft-Hartley or something. It's basically the rule that like you can do one union job in like TV, film, or on camera in SAG-AFTRA land without having to join the union. And then once you do that one job, then you have to join. And so that's what we're talking about here. So yeah, for you specifically, I would say hold off and see if the next thing you book is worth joining.
Okay.
Great. Okay, y'all. Great. I just want to, we have like, 5 minutes left. So I just want to make sure I hit everything I want to hit. I did just really quickly want to touch on, there's so much. So other things that you should just think about and start doing research on is like, if you are interested in voiceover work, like how do you do that? There's the improv world, right? Improv, if you want to do comedy of any kind in commercial work as well, very important to have improv training. So look into that. And then self-producing is also a really important thing now, right? Like if you're interested in like, I want to create a web series, or like I want to make my own work or have footage for my reel, like start doing research into like how did people that you admire, like say like Issa Rae, for example, like she started a whole web series that now she's like, works for HBO. So like, how did those people that I admire, like careers that I admire, how did those people start out? What did they do? What did their journeys look like? That'll give you kind of a cool path to kind of think about like, oh, okay, they did a lot of improv training, so maybe I should start there. Make sense? Great. And the last thing I want to just say, and I wish we had more time to talk more about it, but is survival jobs. So important. So like, you're going to need a survival job, right? Like what I said, when I first moved to New York, I had 5 jobs, none of which had to do with acting. And so it's so important what type of survival job you get. So for example, I started nannying and I realized pretty quickly that nannying was not the best thing for me to do. It seems like the best thing for me to do, but it wasn't, because it was a huge energy suck. Like with like small children, like dealing with small children, like my brain was just like, I couldn't handle anything other than that. And also it happened in the middle of the day, which is also when auditions happen. So then as soon as I started nannying, I realized why everybody's a bartender and a waiter, because you work at night. And so you have your whole day to audition, right? So if you're in the place where you're doing a lot of auditions, it's not great to have a job that happens in the middle of the day. Doing jobs that are flexible, where you can kind of base things on your own time, or jobs that happen at night, great. Also, jobs that give you tips, awesome. Yeah, I worked at Grey Dog, as I said, and I got tips, and that was amazing. And also everybody else I worked with was also an artist, so they understood, and we could all be like, hey, I have an audition later, like, can we switch shifts, right? They understood kind of the job, and that was super helpful. So like, just thinking about like, when you're thinking of survival jobs, sometimes you just have to take the job that's there, and that's totally valid. But when you're thinking of them, if you have options, choose the one that's going to be the most flexible and the least amount of energy suck. Like if you can be memorizing lines as you're working, great. You know what I mean? Like, so that's kind of my just like main kind of thing that I wanted to say about survival jobs. Also, this is a hustle, right? It is a hustle. Doesn't mean that you have to be like totally burnt out all the time and like, this sucks. Like, make sure you have time to rest. But like I've said 3 times now, and I'll say it again, it's a game of persistence. And so you have to just keep going, keep working, take time off when you need time off, and then jump back in. Make sense? Any just quick questions on survival jobs before we're out? Okay. I think that's do research on money management. Also really important. Take courses. If you're going to take a class on something, take classes on money management for artists specifically. Very important. The Actors Fund is a really great resource for all of you. Oh, that went to direct message. Hold on. The Actors Fund. They have a lot of money management workshops as well as other workshops of how to like sustain and other resources if you know, are feeling broke one month and all that stuff. So like definitely check out the Actors Fund for more resources and email me. I'll put my email in the chat again if you have any questions. And that's all, y'all. I could talk for like 4 more hours. But I hope that this was helpful. I hope that you took great notes. Again, let me know if you have any other questions, okay? Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you so much.
Of course. Bye,
Thank
y'all.
you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much.
Of course.
I was getting messages all throughout. Everyone's like, this is amazing. This is so great.
Good. I feel like there's like 80 more things to say, but